Well, as I welcome you all to the Sportsline Podcast, let's say welcome to the weekend as we creep a little closer to the end of April. Can you believe it, folks? Well, we've had some outstanding guests this week, all with their own amazing stories being revealed. Today, one of the country's top storytellers when it comes to sports on television. Well, from his humble beginnings in the hometown of Winnipeg, Manitoba, and educated in communications at Red River College, this individual became the four-season voice of sports television in this country. While working for CTV, Sportsnet, or TSN, Rod Black was on the microphone for CTV's morning show, remember that, along with all premier sporting events on the calendar. He was the voice of the Raptors, Blue Jays, CFL, along with the Canadian Open on the links and the tennis courts. And let's not forget the Winter and Summer Olympics. Now in semi-retirement, if you want to call it that, he makes a weekend visit to the Golden Horseshoe as the voice of the Allen Cup Challenge National Final right here on CHCH. Again, TV royalty.
I'm not royalty, Bubba. You're royalty, Bubba. That's a lot there. You make me sound really old. I am not retired. I'm on Freedom 95, as we all are. I got lots of kids, and I still love doing games, and I'm excited to be in the Horseshoe for an exciting weekend.
And that's what I have to say that because it is an exciting weekend. Anytime you get to have a national final for anything, and especially the reemergence of senior AAA hockey, I think all across the country, and to have you as the voice of the semifinal on Cable 14 and, of course, the CHCH carrying the final.
We get to work together tomorrow.
Yeah, it's outstanding.
Yeah. And Rick Vive.
Rick Vive.
Rick Vive.
Three-time 50-goal scorer.
You know what his middle name is? Friggin'. Rick friggin' Vive. Because when I was growing up, I wasn't a Leafs fan. I lived in Winnipeg. And at the time, I was kind of, I hate to say it, a Montreal Canadiens fan. Mm-hmm. And Rick Vive, 350-goal-plus seasons. I go, Rick freaking Vive did it. But I love him. I get to play some games with him on the old-timer tours, Legends tours, whatever. And he's just a great voice for hockey. And he's a legend. And he played. Mm-hmm. He played for the Dundas Real McCoys, who are in the final already. So there's a lot of lineage, and I'm looking forward to working with him.
Well, he coached as well, too. I mean, you're on point there. And as we talk about hockey, not to kind of be a total sort of, I think it's more of a celebration, but not a downer. I mean, we're just a day past of the passing of Bob Cole. I mean,
he had a lot of great calls of Rick Vive goals.
Absolutely. I mean, do you have any memories of him?
So I got to know Bob a lot. Obviously, we didn't work together, but I got to know him a lot at charity events and at arenas when I was calling games. And everybody has a Bob Cole story. Everybody has a Bob Cole impression. Oh, baby, yes, so there it is. So I'll tell you that right now. They're going home. Loved the man. It's funny that he had that Atlantic Canada lilt to his voice, that little accent. He was an icon. He was part of our Mount Rushmore of Canadian broadcasters. I would put him definitely on it. Love the man. He was, for me, he was the voice of spring because, even though you watch all winter, it was in spring where he really started to shine in the Stanley Cup playoffs. And God love all of our announcers doing hockey now.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. It's not the same without Bob Cole. And even in his later years, when he couldn't see as well, or he might get players mixed up or whatever, when he gave you that, oh, baby, there it is. Oh, it's got to be. Can it be? It's hot in here in terms of heat. That was Bob Cole.
He was so good.
And may he rest in peace. And I'll tell you, the games in hockey heaven that are being called with him and Danny Gallivan and Foster Hewitt and the rest, and the great players they have, he truly epitomized the word legend.
I got goosebumps right now because you're right. I mean, he is one of the few broadcasters in that sport of hockey that he knew the sense of the moment. Yeah. And he was better in the third period than he was in the first period.
He let the game come to him.
Yeah.
And one of the things you learn as a broadcaster is, and we all, I think, can learn from a Bob Cole, and I know I've taken from him and other announcers. And when you start doing games, you kind of radio call it on TV because, you're calling. Hockey's different. You have to identify the players that are on different sides. He didn't have to in many times. He just knew who they were or where they were, or he knew the moment that was coming. Mm-hmm. And he made the moment better. He always made it better, and sometimes making it better is by not saying anything.
So true.
And And you know, he's a crusty guy too. I remember seeing him a few times, and he loved his rums. But I loved talking with him. And we always talked about other things and even sports sometimes. And when I did see him at charity events, and he was a kind man. He had time for everybody. And I think because Foster Hewitt gave him time when he first came into the business, and we're all going to miss him. I've missed him the last few years listening to games, and I've missed seeing him about. I did not know that he was ill, clearly, and he was a special, special man, that's for sure.
Well, we got to grace and understand and listen to him for those of the certain vintage for, half a decade. So, to be celebrated in so many ways.
Olympics, too. Yeah. And I'm surprised he didn't gravitate to other sports, too. But I don't think he had to because he was hockey.
Yes.
He's the voice of hockey. He is the voice of hockey. People could say that about Foster, Henderson took a wild step forward and fell. There's a shot, another shot, he scores. And he had that squeaky voice. And Danny Gallivan had the Gallivanisms cannonading. But Bob Cole was and will always be the voice of hockey night in Canada, hockey night in Canada on television. I'm a big Joe Bowen fan too. The Holy Mackinac, which I think resonates with people in this region because, Joe and I are really good friends, and we have kids who played sports together. We coach together, and Joe is also a guy. But Joe's a radio guy, right?
Yes.
The Holy Mackinac comes from his dad being a tremendous Hamilton Tiger Cat fan. That's how Holy Mackinac came about, and Joe's kind of like that Bob Cole of radio for Leaf fans. But for an entire generation across the country, even though I think Bob Cole did have a Maple Leaf logo tattooed to him.
Yeah, people would be upset with that.
Yeah. But you'd still want to listen to him. I would want to listen to him narrating me cutting my lawn. Oh, baby, there he is. He's cutting that lawn. Oh, there it is over there on the left, to the right, to the left. Oh, here comes the grass. And oh, baby. Yeah.
It's all going on.
It's all going on.
Yeah,
but he was a unique individual, and there'll never be another Bob Cole.
Well said. I look at your career, and when you look a little deeper into your career, Rod, I did not know that your first real job happened when you were 19 years old.
Yeah, I think it was
take me back to the young Rod Black.
Well, I had a lot more hair and a lot more hair under my nose somebody said it was a porn star mustache. I don't know. It wasn't that. But everybody wore mustaches back then. It was early 80s. I think it was actually I was 18, turning 19. And I was lucky enough to get a job in a local market. I've always wanted to be a pro athlete, Bubba. I played a lot of different sports, and I was pretty good at, I got to a pretty high level, but I was always playing whenever season I would play hockey, baseball in the summer, lacrosse, football, basketball. And I think because I became a jack of all trades playing, I never really became a master of one
thing.
And so it kind of took me to that next chapter in my life, which was broadcasting. And I was on my way to the States on a potential basketball scholarship, a recruitment visit down to Bemidji, Minnesota. And I'll never forget driving down. And for some reason, I had this epiphany that I don't think I want to go down there. I think maybe my calling is in broadcasting. I didn't think sports broadcasting. I thought maybe radio, because a lot of the guys when I came in were all older guys. It's a little different now. You can get in when you're young. You still can't get in at a national level, but you got to kind of make hay in the local markets. But Winnipeg had a local CTV affiliate. I had always been in radio doing voices and stuff as a kid, and theater, and I was a roller rink DJ and a DJ in clubs. But again, I think I was thinking maybe radio or advertising, and maybe even acting or of some sort. But my second year at this course in Winnipeg and Red River, they were auditioning people for this sports reporter job, and I wasn't even going to put my name in, because I just was young. Everybody else in my class was like, they were in their 30s, some in their 40s. I thought, oh, they'll get the job. And then some guy came up to me and said, this is your job. You should go for it. And I thought, wow. So the day of the audition came, and I made sure I was the first. I'm never on time for anything, including this today. But I showed up first, got to the lot, met this local icon, Peter Young, national broadcaster, who was the sports director. It was raining outside. I'll remember I put the umbrella up for him, and I was really kissing butt.
You have to.
And I wanted to get first in line.
Yes.
And lo and behold, man, I was lucky enough to get that job and started as a reporter, got on air shortly thereafter, realized this was kind of like what I really wanted to do. You know what it's like. I mean, people probably ask you all the time, like, what this, I mean, it's like having a job, but not really having a job. It's the toy department. We work in the toy department. We do scores and highlights, and we watch athletes, great athletes for great moments. And I can say that, you know, some 40 years later and more, I'm still doing it, and I still love it, and it doesn't feel like I've worked a day. You know, I've always said I do it for free. I don't tell anybody that.
But it's true, though.
But, you know, I'm a freelancer now, but I keep saying I'm not free. But it's true, and there's nothing like it. There's nothing like the purity of sport. Nothing like it, and I'm just so glad that sliding door took me from potential playing basketball in college or in hockey to becoming a broadcaster.
You make the move from Winnipeg, and Chantel, if you can bring up this picture again from the CTV collection.
I'm sure it's probably a mustache.
Well, I mean, there's a mustache, but look at that.
Oh,
like,
there.
Look at that. Like, I mean, you were working with two other Hall of Famers there.
Yeah.
But this isn't necessarily just a pure sports gig that you started out with.
No, so that was, So, again, I came to Toronto in 1990, and I was lucky, Bubba. You know, again, being a local reporter in Winnipeg, cutting my teeth there, and coming to Toronto and getting this national gig as a host and co-host to do Olympics. I came here. Blue Jays win back-to-back World Series. Leafs are taking around. I'm thinking, this is the greatest thing. Didn't realize there was going to be a long drought between championships. But I did the Jays, and I just was loving every moment. Then this was in, and I was doing Canada AM part-time in the morning because we didn't have a lot of events. I just liked broadcasting and doing sports. So I took that mustache over to Canada AM, and in the summer of 2001, that's from that day when we signed all together, Lisa LaFlamme, Jeff Hutchison, and myself. We were the team. I got to tell you something, I loved doing that. There was nothing like it, and we had been together for a while in the summer working, and I really enjoyed working with Lisa and Hutch. We had such a ball every morning. You know what it's like to work on a show, and you love the people and everybody behind the scenes, and I loved it. And I often said, like, why do you want this job? And I was still doing sports at night. Right. Why do you want to do this? And I said, it's the only show where you can interview Joe Clark, Wendell Clark, and Terry Clark in the same hour.
Wow.
You know, like I call it the Clark hour. It's like I got music, I got politics, it was a great learning experience, and I learned a lot from it. But our second day on the job as this new team, I was interviewing just like this, sitting across from a TV guide columnist talking about the new season on CTV, all the new shows, because we were in September, and just sitting, I was on that side, the reporter was here, and it was about 8:55, and Shelley, our producer, in your earpiece, goes, Rod, we're going to go to break. A plane has flown into the World Trade Center. So I'm convinced, we had a camera on that. It was 9/11. We had a camera on that, and we had I don't think anybody else would have had that news faster. And I said, I have to stop you. A plane has flown into the World Trade Center. We're going to come back with continuing coverage in a moment here on Canada AM. We went to break. Everybody thought it was a plane that accidentally got too close. It's happened before. It happened to Empire State Building. You know, crazily, a week earlier, I remember flying right over World Trade Center coming in to do an event in New York. And then we come back. So we're talking about this. We have the FAA. Lisa and I are on the air. How are they going to get the water bomber in, to try to get them? Because up top, you have to get, obviously, the hoses up top. What are you going to do? You see the hole, and then all of a sudden, another plane flies into the building. And that's when we knew it wasn't an accident, and it was an act of terrorism. And so we were now on the air live. I'll never forget, just in the studio, everybody. We had guests coming up, huge guests, everybody, 50 to 100 people standing behind bosses. Sandy Ronaldo, the national news anchor. This was a time before the internet, so nothing was on your phone or on your computer. We had a wire service ticker right beside me, and it was dinging like I've never heard it ding. Sandy, what a teammate. She's off camera feeding me wire copy because that morning everybody thought that planes were flying everywhere. I can tell you there were planes, FAA monitoring planes flying into Vancouver, watching, F1 fighters deploy to monitor planes flying into Chicago, and all of this. It was insane. Now here I'm a sports guy, do scores.
But everything was news that day.
It was unbelievable, and so I can never forget the people's faces behind us, especially when the towers fell. And I think, I don't remember, I haven't really looked at it, but I think I said, "Oh my God." And that was the only reaction you could have, that would happen. And it was incredible. And we were on the air for all day. And then, so here's my second day doing this morning show that I wanted to wake people up, have fun, yes, tell serious stories. And now that it kind of wore me out for the next year and a half, because every morning it was about terrorism. It was kind of during COVID, the same kind of thing. It was every day you talk about coronavirus and you talk about, this and this. And that's what we're paid to do. But it wasn't the same show. There was a real different tenor to the show as opposed to the months leading up. And I did it for another, I think, year and a half, and then I just went quietly back to my sports gig because it was beating me down. And plus my kids were just started having a family. My kids were really young. And
right.
But I do miss that. I miss that show. I would, in a second, if somebody said, "Would you want to go do morning show again?" I'd say, yeah, I would.
Well, it certainly, I would think, rounded you out as a broadcaster because of events like that. And
you got to tap dance, and there's no script.
Oh, absolutely.
And I think being a sports announcer really helped.
Yes.
And having somebody like Hutch, who's a weather announcer, and Lisa, who's also really, proficient at it, we were able to. We had Alan Bell, a former CSIS. I don't know what to call him, an operative, but he worked with CSIS at the time. We had been talking about this during the summer months, the possibility of, these terror attacks. Nobody even, you don't think about it. And then he was down the block and we had him in, and he immediately, within 10 minutes, said, "This is the work of," they said it differently back then, Osama bin Laden. They called him bin Laden. I think they called it Al Qaeda. Whatever, but we knew right away, and the resources, and it was fascinating for me. I've done Olympics before and all of these other in live sports events, but never watching death on right in front of us.
Changed the world.
And yeah, when I like the news side, I'm sure you do too. I love being there for breaking news, but it was gut wrenching. I wasn't emotional on it. I got off the air though. Got really emotional, realizing, man, I don't even think to this day. I think we've let our guard down a little bit again with security and that. Remember how secure everything was, and we had to be secure.
Yeah, everything.
And I just hope nothing like that ever happens again.
No, I'll tell you, and you're right. I can't do news. I'll tell you that right now because I can't handle that stuff.
No,
I would be full of tears
it's hard.
every single broadcast, every death of some young child, and that's why I love sports, because it's real, but it's not real.
Well, yeah, and then you get story. You're right. It's real, but it's not real. But then you get stories, and your emotions get the best of you. I'll never forget. I was having a nap a couple of years ago on a Sunday afternoon, and I get a phone call. Actually, my wife came in and she goes, "Did you hear the news? Kobe Bryant just died." And I had to go immediately. Was called in, and we were on the air for like 9 hours. And I remember getting pretty emotional at that time. I knew Kobe really well. He used to call me Mr. Black. How are you? Because when I met him was during Reservoir Dogs first started up, and he was a big fan of Reservoir. Mr. Black, and I called him Mr. Pink. And I love the guy, and it was just like I still couldn't believe. And then, as much as we love this world of sports, and it is all great, and it's fun, and it's about glory. There is tragedy to it too, and there's some stories that unfortunately we have to be around. And I think being around those stories also help frame the good days, because there are a lot of bad days in sport. There are way more bad days, more losses in sports than wins, and from athletes to ownership to scandals. But when you have that great moment in sports, there's
nothing like it.
There is nothing
Championships,
like it.
it's special.
Especially around Canada, especially being around Olympics, being around Canadian athletes, being around good people. When I do believe in that. I'm not a spiritual guy, but I do believe that good things happen to good people. And when you see that happen, I like to see that happen in Hamilton a little more with the Tiger Cats. I'm like, I got to be honest with you. Some of my greatest friends, and I did the CFL for so long, and every year, maybe I was the curse. I always picked the Tiger Cats. Even being a Winnipegger, I picked the Tiger Cats. They were so good. They were so freaking good.
15-3.
Orlando, Steinauer coming in, and that team, and then the ultimate indignity. There's Zach Collaros, who was great here, goes away, and then he wins Grey Cups, starts a dynasty in Winnipeg.
His career was supposed to be over.
Yeah. But goes to show you that how it happened. And then the heartbreaking one, a couple of years ago when Cats, I thought,
Jalen Ackland, stop it.
I was like,
stop it.
For sure.
Killing us.
For sure.
You're killing us.
This is it. But, that makes it will make the win, the celebration, even that much better. Because I did live in Winnipeg, and I remember '84, they hadn't won in like 20-some years. And that was incredible, being around that. And it was like this huge relief. Now then you go, I want to win again. Let's go win again. And then, down the road, maybe in Toronto.
Stop. Don't even go. That's not happening.
Yeah, there's a lot to it. I don't believe in curses. No. But I do believe it gets in your kitchen. I believe you hold your stick a little tighter, hold the bat a little tighter. When you know, then you know. It's almost sometimes it's best to just get players from another planet who have no idea on the history. And then you destroy that history. But that's just Canada, too.
That can't happen in Toronto because we, the media, will let you know.
Oh, that's it. And it's there. It lingers, and it just festers. It can open. But then again, in Canada, like, who would have thought in a 32-team league, you have 7 teams who, essentially, like almost a quarter of your league, and you can't still win a cup in 31 years.
You can't even get to the cup.
I mean, Vancouver got, Ottawa got, but yeah, I know Montreal got to 10. I thought, but even when Montreal got there a couple of seasons ago, you just kind of knew Tampa was so much better. But I do think, I'll put this on the line. Maybe I don't want to be the curse again, but Canada will win a cup this year. Canada will win a Stanley Cup this year. I'm not going to tell you who. But I guess a 1 in 4 chance right now, and it could be the team in Winnipeg, my old city. I really like.
Not if Connor Hell, if they allow 10 goals every game.
Yeah, I like the Edmonton Oilers, even though they lost in overtime. I really think.
I think
we're looking at there's just the great players, Bubba. You know this. Great players win championships. Connor McDavid is one of the greatest players that ever played the game.
The great player, though, needs a Zach Hyman. And that's the difference.
Zach Hyman, Evander Kane.
Yeah, that's the difference.
You need players that will go through all, Draisaitl. I mean, you look at them. I think about Ryan Nugent-Hopkins and how much pressure he always had. See how he excels now? Like he's better to be that guy. And watching Connor McDavid is. I'm telling you, I've seen them. I've been lucky because I've been in this business for so long. I've seen all the great ones. I broadcast and interviewed like Michael Jordan and Muhammad Ali and Wayne Gretzky. I've been so lucky, and Ken Griffey Jr., who I consider, Barry Bonds, who I consider, even with the steroid issue, one of the greatest players. The greatest skilled player I have ever seen in a sport is Connor McDavid. His skills are off the charts. It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable how good and fast he is. He's almost like a cyborg.
It's incredible.
Yeah.
You're talking about hockey right now and talking about the greats of hockey, but I got to bring you back here. And again, we localize it here with the Hamilton thing. 1991, the Canada Cup, Hamilton. You were a part of that. Talk to me about that.
Yeah, that was honestly one of my first real big assignments. It's so funny. I got here in December 1990. My first assignment was a skating event in Kitchener. I'd never done figure skating before, but I fell in love with the sport immediately. My second assignment, how about this one? The Roses Parade. I'm going, I love this job. Down in Pasadena with Tracy Wilson. And then we did Blue Jays. Again, the games at that time were Saturdays and Wednesdays. So I was hosting for that stuff, some tennis. But that was the big one, especially after coming from Winnipeg and doing Jets hockey for such a long time. And watching 1991 was incredible. We also, one of the first things we did was also the Ben Johnson race in Hamilton at Cops.
Oh, yes.
Remember that? That was like crazy. But this was so special. Of course, Gretz got hurt. The Gary Suter hit.
Cheap.
Yeah. Cheap. But I also, what I loved about that, I remember most, because 87 was special. I was actually a fan here in 87. I got to watch. That was the greatest hockey series ever. There will never be anything like it. 3 games, 6-5, 6-5, 6-5. Ironically, the same score that it was in 1972, 6-5. Canada, Soviet Union, Canada, Russia. But that was Canada, United States, and in 91. And I'll never forget Steve Larmer. But the thing I remember most is I gained 2 of my greatest friends from being around, because we were kind of living in Hamilton during that 2-week period. We were in Collingwood for the camp, and then we came down. And Hamilton is such a great sports town, and Cops was just electric. They had 4 years earlier had the Lemieux shooting goal, and it was all the great players who were there. But I got a chance to coincidentally at the same time was Country Music Awards, Canadian Country Music Awards. So CTV being the host of the Music Awards, I got a chance to present one of the awards to the Country Song of the Year or Musician of the Year. And that night I went with Mike Keenan, Pat Burns, and I got a chance to meet a guy became my lifelong friend and godson to my children, Bruce Good from the Good Brothers.
Okay.
We actually sang the anthem as a group. It was some sort of video that they created at the time. But I also got to really get to know Pat Burns. And God rest his soul, another great one gone way too soon. And both him and Mike Keenan, so people would go, stern disciplinarians. No, Pat Burns was an amazing guy. He used to guitar with the Good Brothers, go on stage, loved his players. Yeah, he was kind of that policeman behind and he had the good stash too, but he was such a good-hearted person. And Mike Keenan too, I got a chance then. Again, Keenan had this kind of like, everybody goes, oh, the guy's psycho? What is he behind the bench? He would make Captain Hook, tough, plays with guys' minds. Yeah, he did. He did, because he was a good coach. Then years later, he's my color commentator. We're broadcasters for the Montreal Canadiens games. I did that for a couple seasons with Mike, and I got to know him so well. So the beauty sometimes of these sporting events is who you get to know, and you never miss an opportunity to meet somebody, because they could be with you for the rest of your life.
The personalities that, and you and I have been so fortunate to run across. I mean, you obviously much longer. That it's just been amazing when I think about it. No, I'm not old, but just calling you
vintage,
veteran, right?
That's okay.
But it really is. It is something special, and it is behind the scenes one of the things that keeps us going on a daily basis. Even little things like this. And let me tell you a quick little story that you wouldn't even think of. In your days of working, and remember working at Rogers at CTV Sportsnet before the Rogers buyout.
Yeah.
You were calling the Raptors games, and at that time, young Bubba over here is the update guy at halftime, and in Vancouver Canucks, Ottawa Senators, Calgary Flames games. I was the update guy that you would send between periods and in basketball at halftime. And there were many times where you were doing games and getting close to halftime, saying, and with CTV Sportsnet, we're halftime, here's our lineup for halftime. You'd have a nice little board, and on that board was highlights with Bubba O'Neil.
Yeah.
Of you throwing to, and throwing to the commercial and throwing to me.
You were in studio though, right?
Yeah, I was in the studio.
Yeah.
In the studio.
I do remember that.
Like that. And thinking to myself, and I there's 2 people that I have it all on beta tape, and one day I'm going to get it on something I can just show everyone.
Because I got some of mine on VHS, and they got that little line that goes through. Was this the Blair Witch Project? What are we like? Where?
Otherwise,
is
this is old.
What is this? They're here. I know.
It is, but I got you, and I have Jim Houston doing the same things. And I mean, I remember being in that studio and thinking, Rod Black is throwing to me.
Oh, wow.
This is special.
I was thinking, I'm throwing a Bubba.
Who's that guy in the studio? But you know, those are things that I will never forget. And again, those are, you know, whether you know it or not, things that motivate me to do what I do.
I think that's how we all get motivated.
You know what I mean?
You know, in every job and whatever we do is I do think you get confidence by never saying no, always accepting a challenge. I really believe that, and learning from your mistakes and being a good teammate. I think you really learn that over the years in this business, is that, you know, sometimes and I've worked, and I'm sure you worked with people that aren't necessarily like that, and they don't get to know the camera people, they don't get to know the producers. They kind of go in, come out, and that's not what it's about. You know, you can be a good broadcaster, a good athlete, or a good doctor for a certain amount of years, but you got to be a good person for the rest of your life. And I think there are some people that get caught up in it.
There are some people that you have come across in your career. There's a little thing I like to call picture time every once in a while. I like to drop some bombs every once in a while.
Right,
now, before we get to the picture time, I want to know about this. Like, once and for all, I know you kind of rubbed on it earlier, but there is, and I remember the day you shaved that mustache. Yeah. Like, that was your signature.
On Canada AM.
Like, tell me about the mustache. It was like your signature.
Like right now, like you're wearing one, like everybody's got a beard now, right? Nobody wore beards back then. But in the 80s when I was broadcasting, everybody kind of looked like a cop. Oh, look at that one. Yeah, that was, so I got rid of that. I got rid of that. I don't know if you've noticed, that mustache is actually Leo Roughton's eyebrow. I gave it to him. Anyway, it was like my unibrow under my nose. So what happened too was, what was very popular at the time was Magnum PI, and everybody was, oh my gosh, that one. I almost look like Gino Retta there. Look at that one. That one is, I don't know where that came. That's a cookie duster. That's a Lillehammer, obviously. I clearly didn't have a trimmer then. So I remember at CTV and CTV Winnipeg, CKY, they did a mock promo, you know, telling you, like CH does, you know, your shows for the season. And they had the Magnum PI doing so they made me do that. I wish I wouldn't have done that, but I had the Hawaiian shirt and the Tigers cap on. And so that became the mustache became a signature. Somebody told me there's some sort of Twitter feed or something like that. That's a Rod Black mustache or whatever. I think that's funny. And then one day they shaved, my last day at Canada AM, they shaved me. I think that was a flam. I love her and I hate her. She shaved me on the air, but I put it back on. And then my second oldest son, Brody, one day, he was like a little guy, 6 or 7. He's so cute. And I was shaving, and he had this little raspy voice. He goes, "Hey, Dad, I've never kissed you without a mustache." And I went, shh, 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 and I took it off, gave him a kiss, and I never put it back on.
Wow.
Yeah. That's how, my wife goes, "Is that all it took?" Because I don't think, jeez. So yeah,
well, for good or worse, I guess, right?
It was pretty iconic. I am apparently growing it back for I'm one of the part of the ownership group for the Toronto Maple Leafs, who play against the Hamilton Cardinals in the Intercounty Baseball League. So our opening day, there is a bit of a bet. I better start growing it May 12th at Christie Pitts. I have a bet with one of our owners, Keith Stein, that and Rob Butler, the manager, and Toronto Mike from Toronto Mike,
famous podcast interviewer. Yep.
Yeah, that I put the mustache back on. So it won't take me long to grow, but I honestly don't. It felt weird at the beginning when I didn't have it for a while, but I don't think I could. I think I could go beard. I like to see like that.
I'd like to see you in a little bit of goatee.
I think I think the bet would work if I had a beard, because I still have the mustache. So maybe that's what I'll do. I don't want to get the beard thing like going like some guys like that Letterman one.
No. I mean, I don't understand that.
Yeah, I
don't even think it suits him. But anyway, he's Letterman. He can do whatever.
Yeah, Hoffa's in there somewhere. I don't know what they're. You can put your meals in there anyway. But the beards there were no beards back then. Only beards were guys, the Philadelphia Flyers, who started it, playoff beards.
That's right.
In hockey.
That's right.
And now everybody's got a beard.
All right, next picture.
Oh, boy. Yeah, He's my guy. I love this guy. I don't see him as much as I should. Dwayne Ford, love him dearly. And I spent some of my favorite times were on the road traveling with him. This guy could eat. This guy could eat. He's one that really, truly became great friends. He is one of the smartest guys. He's one of the nicest guys. He's one of the most astute sports analysts, not just football. He knows more about Canadian players than anybody. I do think that he should be the commissioner of the Canadian Football League. Nothing against Randy Ambrosie, but down the road, I don't know if he wants to take the pay cut. But I loved working with him. We had such a great time. I love traveling with him. I just watch him eat. But he's got a heart of gold, and the stuff that we got into, the fun stuff, the laughs that we had, we giggled all the time. We'd be on the plane looking for doppelgangers. If we saw somebody coming down, we'd be texting each other. Okay, here comes Clint Eastwood, Kardashian. He was so much fun to work with, and some of my favorite memories, honestly, are the games because we did so many Eastern games. And I love Tim Hortons Field in Hamilton. I think it's a spectacular stadium. But I honestly, one of my favorite places to broadcast was Ivor Wynne. And we would be there because you're right on top of it.
Right on top.
And we had so much fun. We kind of became the voices of the Hamilton Tiger Cats because we did so many games here. And Labor Day games. The Labor Day games here. But I love doing it. I haven't seen him in quite some time, but everybody gets caught up in all their other stuff. Yeah. Well, I'll have to go for lunch.
The best part is we're a tweet away. Really, a tweet or a text away from setting something up.
Well,
right?
we talk. Huh? We talk occasionally, but we make each other laugh.
I saw you guys in the booth a number of times giggling away. I mean, and I've always said it just because I've been fortunate enough to call some games, and some of the best moments in your broadcasting career happen in between commercials.
Oh yeah. Oh, the stuff that happens between, and he just loses it. When he loses it. I miss him.
Okay, next one.
Oh, now look at that dude. That's a lot of hair ago, and there's my guy. And another guy who I consider a brother, Liz Leo. And again, I don't see him as much. Look at him. Dolph Lundgren. I will. He's saying to me, I'm going, and so here we are. That looks like that's in Winnipeg, actually. I think that's a Naismith Cup game. And here we are in Winnipeg, Naismith Cup, Vancouver Grizzlies, Toronto Raptors. Leo, what do you think of this game? I will break you. I will break you. What a guy. I like Dwayne. Nobody knows. Yeah, we're brothers. Nobody knows basketball like Leo Routens, and God love all the other analysts, but nobody knows the game like him. Great dad, father of 4, taught me to be a good dad. Shared so many, oh my gosh, stories. I can't tell you the stories that we shared. Too many late nights because we're churchgoers, and when the churches are open late. Libraries, we found out, are open very late.
Very nice.
But we spent a lot of time. We could write a book on our escapades. Just fun stuff again. We always had routines when we did Grizzly games out in Vancouver. We'd always have to go to McDonald's before game. I don't know why, for breakfast. And we would drive half an hour because if there was a McDonald's closed. But we did so many things. And one of my best friends for sure. Handsome man.
And no one knows how to get a tan like that brother.
No, I know.
Or does he have a direct flight to South Beach?
He's got a tanning machine in his. Yeah, well, he's in Florida a lot. He's the mayor of I guess Hollywood, Florida. But he's got a beautiful heart. Like, he does so many things for so many people. His body's broken down a lot. You don't realize he's had, I think, 17 knee surgeries, back surgeries, but he's still hanging in.
Love it.
And he's the God's gift to all women.
And every single time this individual talks about Canada, he drops a bomb and said, Christine Simpson and Rod Black.
I know what this is right here, man. I'll tell you all, man. Rod Black, I'm telling you, I'm big in Canada. I'm big everywhere. Yeah, my guy, man.
He loves you.
Yeah, we're good friends. And I think through Leo mostly, but also through golf, we just became great buddies. That was one of my favorite nights. Giants of Africa with Magic Johnson. Just love Magic so much. But Charles is a special guy. The bravado, the swagger you see on TV, he's a very, very intelligent, all-worldly guy who knows a lot about different things and loves to talk to people. And he loves Canadians. I love you. I love Canada, man. Canada. Leo Routins. And Leo Routins, a lot of people don't know, probably was the reason that Charles Barkley got into the Philadelphia 76ers because Leo was traded for the rights to keep Charles. And, you look at him, he's not enormously, think about what he did. I mean, yeah, he had some girth, but he isn't the tallest guy in the world. And what he did on the floor, he's like just a shade probably over 6'4". Leo's 6'8". I'm 6'2". There's Jacko in the middle. Hello! But I loved... Charles is just the kindest guy. My honeymoon with my beautiful wife, we actually spent with Charles, which is, you can't make that up. He phones me. We're in Mont Tremblant for our honeymoon, and he was supposed to come to the wedding, and he couldn't make it. And I get a phone call in Mont Tremblant. Ding, ding. And there's the French receptionist. Monsieur Black, she's speaking French. Phone call? I said, yes. I'm going, who's calling me here? Mont Tremblant. Hey, use the mother term. What you doing, man? Why don't you come down and spend the week with Tyga, me, Phil, on your honeymoon in Vegas? And I'm going like, no. My wife's sitting there. When it was raining in Tremblant, I'm going, no, I don't think she's going to want. I said, you want to go? She goes, yeah. And we went, what? And so we spent our honeymoon in Vegas and we didn't sleep the whole time. We gambled at night, played golf in the daytime every day, partied every night. But Charles is the guy you see. He's exactly like that. He'll give you every jab in the world, but he's the friendliest, nicest person. I know he was once accused. I don't think accused. I think he did throw somebody through a window, and he got arrested. But the reason he threw that person through the window, and I'm not a proponent of throwing people through windows, is because that person spat on somebody in his party. Whoa. Yeah, and Charles kind of lost it. But and he comes to Canada. When he comes, we play a lot of golf. I spend a lot of time. I don't spend as much time as I should, again, but I hope this summer I get to see him a lot. He is exactly that guy.
Piece of work.
He is a piece of work. And the round of rebound.
The round of rebound. I used to call me that back in the day, but I had nothing like Charles back in the day. Who's next?
You're a nice guy like Charles, though. You got a nice heart like Charles. I've been with him, and he always tells me don't do this, but he'll write a check. When they wrote checks, I don't think they do that anymore. He'll write a check to a charity that we're at, a charitable function, and he'll write a big check, and he'll go, don't you tell anybody. Just give it to him. I tell everybody. He's very kind. Very kind person.
You speak of kind people, and I would be remiss if I have you here and I didn't drop in this picture because he's a Burlington hero. He's someone that was, close to me. The big man.
Yeah, Schultze, another guy. He used to hang with Dwayne and I a lot. Mm-hmm. For whatever reason, I miss him. Oh, gosh, it brings a tear to my eye. He, another brilliant analyst. And a huge man, like absolutely enormous. Like he was bigger than big, and we miss him. Boy, football misses him. I got to know him as a player. I played basketball with him at a couple of charity events, and he was ornery and I always thought he was an angry guy because the way he played. Mm-hmm. And clearly like one of the greatest players CFL's produced. This area's produced. Mm-hmm. Dallas Cowboy. Then get to know him. And I think, he's was one of those guys, take a while to get into his, he was a unique individual, but to get into his space, to get his trust, to get into his circle, takes it a little while. And when I did, and probably through Dwayne, oh my gosh, did we have good times. And some of the greatest conversations about sport, about life I had with Chris Schultz, gone way too soon. It's sad, actually, Bubba. You think about all of the sports icons and people that we just keep, and I don't know if it was just because COVID made us realize that life is so precious, but so many people were passing at that time. Mm-hmm. But I really miss Schultze. He was He is
a hard worker too, right?
Hard worker.
He wanted to be his first ever football game. His first ever football game was with me on cable TV.
Oh, wow.
Doing a Burlington Stampeders.
Guarantee you came with an armful of notes.
Oh, just so prepared. And I'm like, dude, we're on cable TV doing 8-year-old kids. But he knew everybody, and he was ready to talk about everyone and all the positions and what they should do to get to the next level.
He always asked about preparation. He always came to me and said, listen, we did Grey Cup radio for a while, and I wanted to make sure he was part of our team, whether it was as an analyst. Julio Caravata did it as well, but we put him on the sideline even. I thought, well, I can't put Schultz on the side. He wanted to be there. He loved being on the sideline. He loved that. I don't think I'm speaking out of term. I don't think anybody missed the game, being around the smells, the aura, the feeling of the game day experience like Chris Schultz. When he was on the sideline, he gave us great insight. But I remember him, even for sideline, he'd go through this and he just want to make it and check on pronunciations, check on this. He was a stickler for that stuff. Worked the CFL draft with him a few times too. He didn't know anything about a lot of these players in the CFL draft. And he made sure before he got on there, he at least knew something about that. That's a guy who did homework. But he could also just discern by watching some game tape and say, this kid's going to be good at this and this and this. He was a great evaluator of talent. And, I mean, sports TV's changed a whole lot. But at the time, he was, to me, a gold medal panelist for sure.
Well, you're going to be working with the likes of Rick Vive, as we talked about off the top this weekend here on CHCH, calling the Allen Cup. And I know Don Robertson was here just a week ago talking about how he was able to get you involved in this. And in your time right now, I know you're doing a variety of different things, and I know you've got your hands in so many different sporting events, a lot of charity events as well, too. What made you say yes to Don to call this game?
Because I never say no, actually. Those pictures are all over the place. First of all, I never met Don Robertson until I got a phone call. First an email and then a phone call. I was driving down to see one of my boys play baseball in the States, and I instead of emailing him back, I just said, let's talk on the phone. And he asked me. I said, yeah, for sure. Why not? First of all, if I'm not busy and somebody's asking me to do a sports event, again, I think, some people think I'm retired. I'm not retired. I love doing games. If I'm available, I will do the game. I don't care what it is. People say to me, what's your favorite game? Yeah, I've done the Olympics. Yeah, I did the pro. There's a beauty to amateur sport. I love calling a game. It doesn't matter. So it's so crazy that he called me. I said, yeah, I'll do it. He goes, really? I said, yeah. Then he calls me back again. Who would you like to work with? And I had just been with Rick Vive, again, doing a couple of charity events. And I knew that he played senior hockey and Dundas. And I said, what about Rick Vive? And I didn't even know that he had already reached out to Rick Vive. But I said, yeah, for sure. And similarly, the All-Canadian Games, which was the BioSteel, similarly, someone came up to me and asked me to do that. And recently, or the Atlantic Slam. I'm still want to be in the game. I like to go to games. The thing I miss most about broadcasting is the Dwaynes and the Leos and the Bubbas and everybody who works around the crews. I miss that, but I miss the game days. I miss the moments. There's nothing like calling sports, being around it, and framing those stories. Not because I feel that I should frame them. It's just that I kind of learned from them. And you see stuff in sports that you never thought you'd see before. The unpredictability. I guarantee you, this weekend, there will be something that you haven't seen before. And a senior hockey championship. It could be overtime, could be a shootout, could be a penalty, whatever. That's the beauty of sport. And that's why I say yes. And I probably say yes a little too much, and I want to keep doing it. I'll do it until I'll probably go to my coffin with a microphone, but maybe I'll be calling it as I go. But I love it. It goes back to what we said before. It's not rocket science. It's fun and games. And if we can keep it at fun and games and understand stuff through it, even through the challenges, I love doing it. So I'm really happy, and I commend Don Robertson. More I got to know him, I understand why he is such a passionate contributor to amateur sport in Canada. The guy deserves a Purple Heart for what he has done for the Allen Cup.
He does. I mean, this guy, alive. He has kept it alive. He's understood the importance of it. The fact that the players, and so many players keep coming back year after year after year, and they all have lives and families,
jobs,
but in jobs,
real jobs,
and it's important for him, and it's important for these athletes, and these teams are in the right communities, I think, too, that sort of respect
Stony Creek's two players in Stony Creek, Svedin and Knighton, own the team. They own the team. I just found that. I didn't know that. That's passion.
Yep.
That's passion. That's making it, and we need more of that in Canada. We can't have the Allen Cups go to the wayside. We can't have, this. I think this weekend might be a nice turning point and make it even more national. Because the level of hockey, by the way, is spectacular.
It's excellent.
It's spectacular.
Yeah.
It's like university hockey. I don't have to tell you. You will get to watch it all the time. The next best hockey besides National Hockey League in Canada is university hockey. University hockey. They're all junior players who just came out, and they're at that prime age. Nothing against junior hockey, which is good, but they're not 23 and 24 years old playing at that level.
Yep.
I would say NHL, obviously AHL, but then right in there, we need more of that to be covered, to more people to see it, to go to games. You can go shoot a cannon off in some university hockey games, and that's not, it should be more than friends and family.
Well, I think we could have a whole show on the importance of what I think the national sports network should give more attention to in terms of our Canadian.
I don't work for them anymore, so let's just rail on all.
No, but it's just that, that our university sports isn't covered correctly, and I watch a lot of these.
It's not covered at all,
and the action is just as good. I look at all. We cover so much of the NCAA stuff, and it's great. It's wonderful. But why can't we do more?
Why are 5 NCAA games being shown on a Saturday afternoon and not one university game from Canada? Why? I don't get it. And that's a mandate. That should be there. We have networks, by the way, public broadcaster networks that have trucks. They should be covering stuff like that. That is important. Why do we have all these sports networks in Canada and 5 things on at the same time? How many times can you watch the top 50 plays? Like there are amateurs playing somewhere. Now I know streaming and that's that's great, but that's what they do. And the culture of sport has to exist by being inspired by watching a game of the week somewhere, by watching so that you can be that next person. I've always maintained that. Even when I worked for the networks, I mean, why can't we? I loved, honestly, Bob. People ask me one of the greatest games was with Dwayne Ford, and it was in 2011. It was the Vanier Cup. Mac won in overtime.
Wow, what a game.
Over Laval. It's been called, there's a documentary on it, best game ever.
Spectacular.
Yeah. And why? There's no reason. And that's just not football. That's hockey, women's hockey. That's volleyball. That's basketball, men's and women's basketball. That's those sports that aren't, I think are being given short shrift in Canada. I really do. And yes, it costs money. Naturally costs money. But it's going to take, we've got a lot of betting companies that are, but there are other sponsors out there, and I would love to have a benevolent sponsor out there to grab university sport and say, hey, let's take this to the next level. Maybe start our own network, start something like that. Because I feel bad for those kids. Like we put so much emphasis on, that. And nothing against them, but when Jamal Murray was playing in the United States or Shea Gilgeous, they're playing in the States. Well, what about? I do the CEBL.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
I do the CEBL, and I see all those Canadian kids playing with NBA players, and they played in university, and nobody, without their friends and family, and maybe some kids in school, but the David Mooncats, the Thomas Kennedys, they are
Scrub Brothers.
The Scrub Brothers. They're playing with NBA players, and at the beginning I went, they're excelling. That is why we need to focus more on where they were beforehand. I had a real hard time doing CFL games when, CFL fans just hear about, like a Pete Diakowski, I don't know why I'm throwing his name, I probably saw him on Twitter today, or a Dwayne Ford, or, just go through the list. Of players, Canadian players who were playing Canadian colleges, and you go, where did he come from? Well, he's been playing Canadian university football, and that's not just the sports networks. That's mainstream media missing it. Newspapers missing it. Missing those. You get the scores.
Yeah.
They're great stories. There's a quarterback in the Canadian Football League. A couple of quarterbacks who have played Canadian university
Trey Ford
football.
Trey Ford's a star.
And when did you hear about Trey Ford? Beyond the fact that you knew, but when did you hear about him? When he got to the CFL.
For most people, yes.
Yeah. For us, we kind of knew. Well, we need to tell those stories better.
Yeah.
We need to tell those stories better. I really firmly believe that.
Well, I think the ability is there, and I think the proof is in the pudding in your old stomping grounds at TSN, because I know as much as CBC did what they could with the World Junior Hockey Championship, by putting it in the forefront, what TSN did with it, it has now become a Christmas tradition. And that's because they blasted us with junior hockey. And you know what? For the most part, for the rest of the year, they don't show any junior hockey highlights.
Yeah.
But they show this tournament, and it is now a staple in our lives.
And in the rest of the world, it gets a byline.
Yes.
But in Canada, it's a staple. So why can't we do that with other things? Make it a, CBC with a hockey day in Canada. I think that's fantastic. I know Dundas won the
Hockeyville.
hockey day.
That's right.
Hockeyville. Same thing. Those little things help. But I also think that we're just not a hockey nation. God love, we're all hockey. Hockey's got a big part in our hearts, but we got big hearts. Let's fill those hearts up with other sports too. There are other, you shouldn't have to hear, about a shot putter as they go to the Olympics, just at the Olympics. You shouldn't have to hear about Andre DeGrasse just before the Olympics. You shouldn't have to hear about Penny Olesiak just before the Olympics. Let's get them into our frame of mind. Because their stories are inspirational stories, not just to the average person, to the young kid. The young kid out there going, I can be that person. And the more you hear about that person, the better it is. The more you want to be that person. That's what you want to do.
Raw, this has been spectacular. I wish we could go on and on. There's so much more to talk about.
I gotta go do a game.
I know you've got to get. I know prep's an important part of what you do, and of course you got to get ready for tonight's big semifinal game and the final game. But I appreciate your time, your candor, your character, your experiences, your stories. It's made this podcast even better today. I hope you come back and
I love
some other things we can talk about.
I'd love to.
But enjoy this weekend.
Yeah. Well, thanks. I'm looking forward. And I will tell you, CHCH has done a lot for amateur sport, and you've done a lot as well. I commend you, and I know that you get out in the community. It's about sport is about your hometown. Sport is about your hometown and your community and your people. You guys get it here. You really get it. And I'm not just saying that because I'm working for you this weekend. And you're paying me $1 million. No, pesos. But I'm saying that because I do believe it, and I've seen it. Everybody sees it, by the way. They understand it. And, Western Canada, there are more of those, too. Like, we need more of that. But I'd love to come back anytime, and I can't wait to be around the rink tomorrow with you. I'll buy the coffee.
The tea.
Tea.
Don calls it the tea.
I know what kind of Don. We better not do Don's tea before the game. It might make a pretty spectacular broadcast.
It'll be a wonderful
Welcome
broadcast.
to the Alvin Cup. The Elvis Cup.
Take two, take three.
Any more tea?
Rod, we're live.
Oh, hey, thank you, brother. Thanks,
you, brother. Well, that was spectacular. That's your Sportsline podcast for the day. And as you've just seen and heard, we love talking to people that know sports, love sports, are passionate about sports. If you do know of an athlete, team, or event to promote the Sportsline podcast, do want to hear from you. Please hit the thumbs up, like, and subscribe button. And a reminder, Sportsline is just one of the quality podcasts on CHCH. As newsmakers and Trending Now are keeping you up to date with all the news and trends you do need to know. For the amazing teammates that make the Sportsline podcast possible, thank you so very much. Hey, we'll see you next week.